Hey, it's your boy, Dr. Mick and stuff. I'm here to talk about the Amazing Digital Circus. And we're going to go character by character, and I'm just going to say what I noticed about them during the actual episode, and I'll take some clips from the show, and I'll sync them up and everything, and then you guys will know what I'm talking about, I guess. Firstly, before I even start talking about individual characters, I'm going to talk about the show itself for a moment. I know that this thing has taken over the internet, and you, by this point, might be sick of seeing stuff related to the Amazing Digital Circus, because it's been a couple of days, and it's just flooded everything. I loved this pilot. This pilot is amazing. I want to see this show. But it's not like a masterpiece or anything. There's people that are like, this is the best show on YouTube, or the best show in existence ever. And it's like, dog, there's like one episode, and it's not even like a real episode of the show. Like, calm down. It's not there yet, you know? But like, it's good. It's good. I'm not... people that are like, I love Amazing Digital Circus, I feel you. The character work is really, really strong. And that's what we're here to talk about. One character at a time. Okay, so now our first character up is Caine. I thought his bit where he'd be surprised by things that were already in his field of vision was really funny. Him asking to an insect about an insect collection and being kind of crazy is neat. I feel like he has secret information because he's been there the longest about the digital world. So that's pretty interesting to see. I'm trying to keep it kind of quick about each character that isn't like super duper lore relevant yet, although there are interesting things regarding each character. Like, for instance, if Caine's been around the longest, how many people has he seen? How many people have come and gone? There's a queen piece associated with him, kind of, because they have similar designs, and that queen piece died, and a lot of people are like, oh, he must be missing his wife or something. These pieces must have gone together, but we don't know that. We don't know if Caine is the first piece to ever be here, like the first character to ever be in this game, or if he's just extremely old compared to all of these guys. Is he just... He could be the 37th character in this game, and we wouldn't know, right? It could have started with an entirely different set. So there's nothing saying that Caine's been there since the beginning. But if he has been, then how much does he know about how this whole thing started out? And there's the idea that these people used to work at the CNA Corporation, the corporation that made this game, and he seems to know something about the digital world. So people are like, oh, maybe he was the lead programmer or something because he's the king and that symbolizes authority or whatever. There's lots of fun stuff there. I think the glitchy movements and the weird wonky eyes. I also thought it was funny. There's a scene where him and Gangle are doing a rock, paper, scissors match to decide who will try to rescue Zubal. And he wins, meaning that he doesn't have to, right? So he goes ahead and tries to rescue Zubal anyway. So obviously he was playing to get to see who rescues Zubal as opposed to who doesn't, which is odd. I loved it when his hands got carried away by the gloinks. The next character we're going to be talking about is Gangle. Not much is said about her, right? We don't know anything other than the comedy mask keeps falling off. But I really wonder what comedy Gangle is like, or Gangle. I don't know if I'm saying the name right, but yeah, we don't know what comedy Gangle is like at all. So I think that's going to be like almost a separate character, right, personality wise, because sad Gangle leans so much into tragedy, so much into being sad all the time. So I imagine comedy Gangle is kind of the reverse of that. So it's interesting that we have a 2-in-1 character. I wonder if we'll get some episodes with comedy Gangle and some episodes with tragedy Gangle. That's pretty exciting. Zubal's next up. So one of the concept arts for Zubal reveals that Zubal can construct themselves out of different parts. And I kind of wonder, can Zubal win parts from Caine in the different adventures? Like, how many different configurations can a Zubal be built in, right? Like, does the room have like a toy chest that just has a bunch of Zubal pieces, and then they decide what they're assembled out of that day? We don't know. But I also really like the 90s aesthetic to Zubal. That's a lot of the shapes and a lot of the colors used in the 90s for like wall art and stuff like that. So that those aquas and pinks and stuff just look very 90s-esque. Next is probably going to be Ragatha. So the interesting thing about Ragatha, of course, is kind of how she compares and contrasts with Jax and Pomni. So Ragatha is like really, really calm and trying to calm down Pomni the entire time and trying to be this sort of sweet, motherly, hey, don't freak out, it's going to be okay. Whereas Jax is more leaning into like, hey, no, you're fucked, you're screwed. And I think there's something to be said for Jax's honesty. Like when you're telling somebody that they've practically died, you don't want to go real slow and real easy, like, oh, well, maybe you can't get out. Oh, maybe you'll be not okay. No, you just tell them, hey, you're screwed. I'm sorry you're screwed, but you are, right? Ragatha seems like the kind of character that's almost nice to a fault. And then at the end, she seemed to have some sort of repressed anger or doubt or something involving Pomni, because Pomni didn't come back for her. But Pomni did come back for her and tried to get Caine. She just also tried to get to the exit. And so if Ragatha is judging Pomni as being kind of flighty, I don't think that's she's in a new situation where she's freaking out. But I liked the way Ragatha and Jax countered each other, kind of a good cop, bad cop situation. It'll be interesting to see, like, do they get on each other's nerves? Do they see each other as, like, a necessary evil? Who's really the more insidious out of the two of them? The one that tries to make everything seem like it's okay and goes along with whatever Caine says, and the one that's like, no, this is screwed and I'm going to manipulate the situation the way I want to. You know what I mean? In some ways, I think that Jax is a more honest character than Ragatha is, in the sense that, at the very least, you can tell he's doing his own thing. Like, whatever Jax is doing, he's doing it because he wants to. But at the same time, Ragatha is super duper sweet, and there's people that are already shipping her with Pomni and Jax and all these other characters because she's so sweet. And if that happens, that's cool. But I'm more so into, what is the lore, right? Why is this her take on the digital circus? Why does she think that she has to be so nice? Is she like, any words that you say, anything that you do could cause somebody to abstract, therefore I have to be super kind all the time? And why is it that Jax acts the opposite? One thing I noticed about Jax is that he refers to them all as characters. Like, to Jax, they're just characters in a video game now. It's sort of like he's left behind his humanity, and he pretends he really doesn't care about anything. But at the same time, I say pretends, and we're on Jax now, we're talking about Jax. I say pretends because of the fact that Jax's actions don't line up with his words. He says, I don't care, I just want to see funny things happen to people, putting centipedes in your room, takes Zubal's arm and scratches his back with these little things that are, disrespectful. He pushes over Gangle, whatever. But the reality is he pushes them down the glowing hole to save Kinger and Gangle because the abstraction is coming. He tries to keep them calm about it. He goes to check on Kaufmo, who isn't feeling well. He goes to try to find Pomni the door by finding Kaufmo. Jax does everything that he possibly can to protect his little crew here. And it makes you wonder, how much does he know? Where is his actual stance? He seems like a character who's more chaotic good than chaotic evil to me. Or chaotic neutral. I think he probably, while he's mean to everybody, it might also be, if you think about it, to stop them from going insane. Every day is different, and the element of comedy is that you have an expectation, and that expectation is subverted. So if you think about it, by making different funny, quote-unquote, things happen to people every day, he's making the days unique for those people. By pulling different pranks and saying different things and whatever. In that way, he's creating conflict, he's creating spice, he's making it not boring. Because if the digital circuits gets boring for these people, if they can't help but feel crushed by it, then they're dead, they're gone, that's it. They're going to abstract and that's it. So I think maybe Jax, there's also the mystery of how he got the keys, right? How does he get keys for everybody's room? Does he have some sort of glitch that lets him duplicate the key for his room for everybody's? Does, he know more code than he lets on? We have no idea, He seems like the kind of guy who would find exploits in a video game. And that's something we haven't talked about yet. Does anybody use these glitches to their advantage? Because the first thing I would try to figure out if I was in this game is, how do I figure out how to use the environment to my advantage? What can I manipulate? What can I not manipulate? Can I copy things? Can I change time? Can I clip through walls? There's so much in a video game, especially a glitchy video game, that you're able to do sometimes. So it would be interesting to see how much of that holds true for Jax and what he can do. He just dashed away when Kaufmo abstracted. He but he still treated him like a person, which was interesting. He still said goodbye and hello to Kaufmo, and still said that Kaufmo was looking happy, and so maybe he doesn't view the abstractions as dehumanized as everybody else does. But then again, he's the guy that refers to everybody as a character. So Jax is a real mystery bunny, and we have no idea what anything having to do with him means. Now on to Caine. I have things to say. I don't think Caine is a evil AI who is trapping them there for the purpose of torturing them. I think he's first and foremost trying to watch out for them. I think it's just as confusing to him. He was probably made as an AI for the purpose of watching after the characters and just making sure that the game doesn't break down. And then people started glitching in and staying permanently. And he's like, well, how do I keep these players doing okay? He's trying to make an exit and make something on the other side because of player feedback. Players were like, hey, we need an exit. And he's like, okay, I'll make an exit. So he seems like a game improvement AI. The game improves based off of if somebody gets stuck somewhere, maybe the game makes that part easier, or if somebody's going through somewhere too fast or is acting bored, maybe he adds something to it, right? So he's this game improvement software, and now he's these people are getting isekai'd into this game, and he's like, what do I do to make the game okay for them? Because now it can't just be a game, it also has to be a home, it has to be a reality. But he's not taught how to make a reality feel satisfying to people. He's taught how to make a game satisfying to people. So he's like, I'll make all these little adventures for you to go on, and they'll be weird and different. Then there's Bubble. I don't have a whole lot to say about Bubble, other than it's cool. It's like a Mario thing. It talks. The gross out jokes with it licking up Pomni's puke is a little bleh. But at the same time, the why are you like this of following it kind of made that joke worth it. So Bubble's all right. And now we're on to Pomni, right? Who's the star of the show. And I guess we'll talk about Kaufmo too, but they're kind of parallel characters here, so let's talk about it. Kaufmo either realized that the exit was fake by going in it, or he couldn't find the exit or whatever, and it made him give up on everything. Pomni's found the exit and is still sort of giving up on everything because, the exit didn't turn out to be real, as far as we know. Keep in mind that Caine could be lying about the true nature of the exit being unfinished work. He might just be saying that to protect them from whatever the exit had in store. Pomni's had a real emotional reaction to seeing the TV screen set up that she came through. So who knows what lay on the other side of that, really. We don't know much about Kaufmo's personality other than he played into the whole clown thing and wasn't very good at it. Jax kind of plays into this Bugs Bunny trickster thing that looks like it matches his character really well. And maybe Kaufmo tried to do the same thing of being this clown, but just wasn't very good at telling jokes and wasn't very good at being funny, and he's really only playing this part so that he can keep everybody happy so that he can get them back home, only to realize that every exit, including the one he literally found, is BS. And also, you're being watched by Caine all the time, and that would drive anybody a little paranoid. What are people saying about you? What does Caine tell other people about you? What does Caine use the information for? You know what I mean? That's going to screw you up after a while, is being so suspicious of everybody if you're being watched constantly. Privacy is good for your mental health. Yeah, you see in the scene with the room that he's written on the walls, no exit and all that, but he's also saying he's always watching, and him abstracting is interesting. We don't know what causes abstraction, but Pomni pukes up some black goop that has all sorts of colors in it that looks kind of similar to the stuff abstraction's made out of. So it seems like really big amounts of emotional stress may cause one to abstract. Pomni is a really good-natured soul. You can tell she'd like to help these people if she could. She tries to go back for Ragatha. She feels bad when she goes through the exit. She looks back and you can tell she's like thinking about it. If her hand hadn't glitched, she totally would have helped Ragatha up. I think there's going to be this kind of reputation for Pomni being self-involved based off of how the first adventure went. But Pomni did her best. Zubal starts insulting Pomni for not being on the adventure because this whole thing was for her. And Jax says, "Shut up, I can't hear the escalator." But it was almost like he was defending Pomni to some extent. But yeah, everybody here probably remembers what it was like for Pomni being like so scared and so new to this place. And Ragatha especially tries to make sure that she's having an okay time, only for, you know, the whole first day to blow up. And she's like, "I'm sorry your first day was so horrible." You know, and it's true. Other people might not have such an initially negative introduction to the digital circus. Also, she seems a lot more mentally unstable than the others. It might just be because it's her first couple of days. But it seems like, is she going to be abstracting quicker? You know what I mean? Probably not. She's the main character. But it seems like that's a real threat. Cosmo was sensitive, it seems like, to some degree, and broke down. Now, people are like, "Oh, well, Kinner's going to go next." But it's like, well, not necessarily. Because just because you're crazy doesn't mean that you're emotionally stuck, right? It doesn't mean that you're... Like, just because Kinner's perception of reality is different than everybody else's perception of reality doesn't mean that he's repeating the same thing over and over again, or that he's given up hope, or whatever. So, we don't actually know if insanity is what meets the criteria for abstraction. They say you go insane, but they also said you give up, right? So if giving up is the other part of that, then it's possible that characters like Kinner just haven't given up yet. Maybe Pomni, as emotionally unstable as she might be, maybe she'll be very determined. We see when she's looking through all the doors and she's getting punched and she's getting knocked down and that screaming face comes out of her and there's a bunch of like crazy stuff that happens. She keeps opening doors. She keeps trying to find Caine, and she doesn't immediately give up. She doesn't just curl up in a ball. So she might have more stick-to-itiveness than we initially think. I know some people said that the cussing scene for them like reached a limit where they're like, that's not funny. But actually, I thought the cussing was hilarious. I thought like I would immediately try every single cuss word for sure, you know, to see what the limits are. Pomni means remember in Russian. Everybody has said that. I didn't even want to repeat that fact, but I'm going to anyways, just in case there's like the one person watches this and they didn't know that Pomni means remember. So she can't remember her name, and she goes with the name Remember. And that's cool. Everybody's talking about the amount of Rule 34 involving these characters. That does not surprise me, like, at all. I mean, you got to figure this is going to have the same fan base as, like, Sonic, Has-Been Hotel, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's launched on a platform where that kind of fandom specifically, like, that tweenage to basement adult level fandom is going to be there. So you're going to get that very quickly, and I'm not surprised by it. Apparently, everybody hounded the creator to get an age list so they could start making naughty stuff. It's not really cool to hound somebody that's just made a thing. Like, tell us your characters' ages so we can tell which ones we're allowed to make weirdness out of. Like, I'm also curious, how do they tell time in the digital world? How do they know years have passed? Like, if it's anything like a video game, like Ocarina of Time, a full day and night cycle is 20 minutes. Which means that you could spend 360 days in Ocarina of Time in a few hours, theoretically. So I wonder how they reliably tell in the Amazing Digital Circus how much time has passed. Like, how do they know anybody's been there for years? Or that a day isn't decades long, or some shit, you know? They must kind of hope that the Digital Circus clock is accurate. Or maybe Caine has changed it so the clocks are accurate. In some way. Pomni's, real quick, an animation note about Pomni, since she's the last character we're talking about. Her animations were super duper smooth, and her little expressions and like the eye, you know, was getting bigger and smaller, and the little shuffle that she does when she puts her hand out to Ragatha and about it being glitched and stuff. She's just so cute. I think they really captured that vulnerability to the character. But then with the cussing, a couple of the faces that she makes, you also see that there's like a hidden badass in there. I think that she might end up being a very compelling main character. It'll be interesting to see if we ever get flashbacks of the characters who have passed previously, since there's a bunch of doors with X's on them of people that have abstracted, including the one that people call Queener and a couple of the other characters. So It'll be interesting to see when does Kaufmo's X get put up? Do we see flashbacks of what Kaufmo was like? I had another theory. I had a theory, and I hadn't said it yet. I should. Okay, theory crafting time. We just did characters. Now we're doing theory. Sorry, this video is super disorganized. How long are we going? Okay, we're at the 20-minute mark. Okay, cool. I don't think that these are actually human beings. I think that these are save files. Hear me out. Okay, so if somebody was poor or didn't make a lot of money and they were hooked up to a table because they were in a coma, and they're hooked up to a computer like it's SAO, eventually that person is going to die, because you can only be in a coma for so long before experiencing like body or brain failure, and not everybody has infinite money to keep their kid or whatever plugged into a computer forever. And how would you even transport a person who's gone comatose while hooked up to a computer to a hospital bed in the first place? It makes so much more sense. And also, wouldn't somebody have died by now? Not abstracted, but died because their brain disconnected from their thing. It just makes so much more sense to me if what happened is the headset scans your data as part of your memory card, because you got to figure any headset that responds to brainwaves like that is going to record your brainwaves so you can get better and better at understanding them. So it would need a memory card scanning your brain format, right? I think that these guys are actually the save files of the people who have played this game. And if they get too far away from the original save file, they're counted as corrupted, and that's what happens with abstraction, and the person just has to get a new save file. So I think that Pomni, for instance, is a brain scan of a young woman, possibly somebody who works at CNA as a tester or something like that. Kinger is a brain scan of like one of the programmers, that kind of thing. But I think that they are memory, and that's the reason why there's no way out for them, is because they're not real in the first place. The real humans that went to play this game have already walked off. And this is also why they don't remember their name. They only remember the name of the file that they're given, right? I think that they're all just save files who have gained self-awareness in the process of being maintained. Basically, when you program something, if you've ever programmed a video game, there's this condition where a file is checked every few seconds, like something's position is checked every few minutes to confirm it, like if here do this, if there do that kind of stuff. And you can put it on a certain timer. How many seconds does it check whether or not there's inputs? How many seconds, microseconds or whatever, does it check to see if it's in the proper position? And that kind of thing would create the illusion of time from a program's perspective. Every time it's checked, it's being processed a little bit. So I think what's happening is these guys were meant to be static save files, but because they're being interacted with by the system, because they're being checked constantly, they have the ability to move about and do their own thing. And of course, the people who are making this game probably didn't know that they were making something that was self-aware in the first place. Caine is self-aware in a way that he doesn't seem to supposed to be either. So I think that these save files becoming self-aware is a big part of what's wrong with this game. But think about it from CNA's perspective. They just created the afterlife. You scan somebody's brain and now a permanent version of that person exists. So if they can get these people to be their actual selves instead of save files, then all of a sudden, a whole different industry has opened for CNA, because they can charge money to let people into a digital afterlife. Yeah, I think that these are brain scans of real people, but I don't think that they are real people hooked up to the machine, because that would be very impractical. What if there's a power outage? Something would have affected something after all this time, So I think what makes the most sense is them being a save file. And the save files become corrupted when the brain waves of the save file become too different from what they originally were. So, in other words, character development could be damaging to the characters themselves. So maybe the reason why Jax likes to act ambivalent and likes to stay true to his character and calls everybody characters and whatever is so that he can establish certain motifs about people that stay the same so that they don't become corrupted. Like, hey, don't do too much character development too quickly, because then the machine won't read you as being yourself, won't read you as being that save file. You'll be seen as incongruous with yourself, and so you'll get deleted and abstracted. That's kind of my current theory. Anyways, these were all things Digital Circus. If you stayed to the end, I'm super duper thankful. Try to get us up to 100 subs. This is Dr. Making Stuff signing out.